Hey everybody, I'm Joe. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm here with a replay of a match against Bring to Light Scapeshift. It's a deck that I don't have a ton of experience playing against. I feel like I've probably seen it somewhere around 5 times or something like that. The idea is it's going to play 4 or 5 colors in the deck. Bring to Light, when cast, has the Converge keyword, which says search your library for creature, blah, 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 and it cares about the colors of mana that you used to cast Bring to Light. So if you pay the 5 mana with 5 different colors, you can get a converted mana cost of 5 or less. So Bring to Light sort of opens up the possibilities of running a toolbox deck. So against a deck like Merfolk, you can bring in spells like Supreme Verdict and then search for them with Bring to Light. The most typical target for Bring to Light is Scapeshift. So the opponent is playing sort of a controlling game, I think, on the front end, establishing all of their colors, and then casting Bring to Light for whatever they need, typically Scapeshift. So looking at their opening hand, they've got 5 lands, Piece of Removal, and Bring to Light. I don't know if this is a keep or not. As I said, I don't have a ton of experience with it. But I won the die roll, and I'm going to be on the play. And whereas in the past I might have kept this sketchy hand, I'm pretty sure that this is a mulligan for me. So I have to choose first. The opponent went ahead and mulliganed. Looks much better on their side. They're going to be able to start off with Suspended Search for Tomorrow and have 3 pieces of removal at the ready. For my mulligan, I hit Mutavault and AEther Vial. Pretty solid. So I think we're both going to keep at this point and then scry. So I put Harbinger from the top onto the bottom. I'm trying to hit lands at this point, specifically blue sources. The opponent likes what he saw on the top of his library. So I'll open with Mutavault into AEther Vial, and we'll see what the opponent kept. Well, he kept another ramp spell in Sakura Tribuilder. So this actually developed into a pretty solid hand for the opponent. There's a Stomping Ground taking the opponent down to 18 with a Search for Tomorrow suspended. So in a couple turns he's going to get basic land coming into the battlefield untapped. Well, unfortunately I didn't hit my second land drop. The opponent's going to get to tick down this Search for Tomorrow. And they drew a Scapeshift. So looking fairly traditional here with ramp spells and Scapeshift. This deck looks like it runs a lot of removal. Pretty scary stuff. So I brought in Cursecatcher after the opponent tapped out to play Sakura Tribuilder. After ticking AEther Vial up to 2, I'm going to go ahead and Vial in Silvergill Adept in the hopes of finding a land. I did hit it. Unfortunately, it's not a direct blue source. It's a Cavern of Souls. I won't be able to play the Spreading Seas, which would have been pretty nice on that Stomping Ground, but I will get to activate Mutavault. I'm going to swing with Cursecatcher and the Mutavault. As usual, the opponent's going to choose to block with Sakura Tribuilder and then sacrifice in response in order to get that tapped basic land and continue hitting those land drops. So Search for Tomorrow got its last suspend counter removed, and the opponent gets to resolve it now. They're going to search for a basic, and there's an island. At this point, seeing all these different color lands, I'm pretty sure the opponent is on Bring to Light. And they're going to play a Wall of Omens and continue drawing cards. There's another Search for Tomorrow. The opponent's going to happily suspend that. However, with access only to blue mana right now, it doesn't have good blocks lined up. I'm going to be able to get some value out of my Island Walk if I choose to go that way. So during my upkeep with 2 Reejereys in hand, I have a choice because if I do hit a blue source, I can go Reejerey with a Vial, cast Master the Pearl Trident, untap AEther Vial with a Reejerey trigger, and bring the other Reejerey into play. That's going to be able to push a lot of damage, but I'm having some land troubles. This can be a tricky call, but I do tick it up, and I do hit that land drop. So I'm going to go ahead, activate AEther Vial, bring in Reejerey, cast Master, and instead of untapping AEther Vial, it looks like I opted to untap my blue source to play Spreading Seas and try to continue just drawing some cards. Going to swing here with Island Walk for excuse me, 7 damage. Follow up with Spreading Seas on his Stomping Ground. The idea being that if they're on Bring to Light, I'm taking him off of one of his colors. So now he doesn't have access to red mana, and this Search for Tomorrow is going to take a couple more turns. But we see the opponent has a bunch of removal in his hand. Even though I took him off of red mana for the time being, he does have a Path to Exile in hand. So Glittering Wish, we can see another toolbox card. He gets to choose a multicolored card from his sideboard and put it into his hand, and then exile Glittering Wish. Okay, so it looks like he chose to scoop it up at that point. I guess that I didn't run the math on the Path to Exile, but it looked like maybe he was going to be taking lethal regardless. So he scooped up Game 1. Let's go ahead to Game 2. So we didn't get to see Scapeshift. We didn't actually get to see a Bring to Light get played that game. Looks like a great hand. 3 creatures and a counterspell. On the opponent's side, he's got 2 pieces of removal, 4 lands, and a Scapeshift. Probably a keep on his side. Definitely a keep on my side. And there it is. The opponent plays a tap Stomping Ground. I draw another creature. Pretty nice. The opponent draws an Obstinate Baloth. Okay, I guess let's see here. The opponent paid 2 life to play a Hallowed Fountain, making me think that he was representing, if not Path to Exile, then Lightning Helix. So I chose to just pass the turn since I drew into Kira, leaving Dispel up. Potentially missing a beat. We see the opponent did in fact have removal. But with Kira, it's generally pretty good to get her on the board before you start putting all your creatures out. And I do have a counterspell up here if the opponent wants to try to play something on his turn, an instant on his turn. Unfortunately, he does not. I drew into a Negate, more counter magic, and I'll go ahead and cast Kira here. Alright, so the opponent has plenty of lands. Looks like he's probably going to go with Obstinate Baloth here, gaining 4 life, putting him up to 22. Now, I'm going into my 4th turn here, and with the opponent at 22, they're getting pretty close to what they need for Scapeshift mana. Basically, when they cast Scapeshift, they go and get Valakut and 6 mountains, so they all see each other and deal me 18 damage. Now, Obstinate Baloth is a source of damage that's going to put me below 20, so that Scapeshift on 7 lands for 18 damage will actually be lethal. A lot of times Scapeshift decks don't really run threats, and so a Merfolk deck without any fetch lands is going to be sitting at 20 life when the opponent is trying to cast Scapeshift on 7 lands. They actually have to wait until 8 lands to get a lethal Scapeshift against Merfolk. So we can see that I am pretty far behind here as far as board development goes. I do have counter magic, but we still haven't seen too much of what the opponent plays. Last game, all we saw was ramp spells, basically. I'm going to attack with Kira in the air for 2, bring the opponent back down to 20. I'll play Master of the Pearl Trident, leaving 2 mana up for Negate. Now, that could potentially be a misstep here. If I could have chosen to play another Lord, but the opponent could be playing Anger of the Gods, in which case I would get totally blown out. So I chose to be the controlled player against Scapeshift and leave up my Negate. The opponent, of course, is going to swing with his Obstinate Baloth. Chooses to start with a land, getting a Plains, taps his Team Vents to cast Lightning Helix, targeting, let's see who that was targeting. Targeting Master of the Pearl Trident. It's going to follow up with another Lightning Helix, and I'm going to get to use my Dispel. So, clunky magic on my side, but also clunky magic on the opponent's side. Swings for 4. I go down to 16. Now, I've got plenty of good cards. The opponent is on 5 lands, and I've pretty well placed him on Scapeshift at this point, even though we haven't seen it yet. There's some choices to be made here. if I cast Master of Waves, I'm going to get 5 tokens for 10 power, including then the 3 on top from the Master of Waves. Bring 13 power to the board and threatening lethal the following turn. That seems pretty appealing. On the other hand, I could play out another Island Walk Lord. That would still leave me susceptible to Anger of the Gods. Though I guess I would be leaving Negate up at that point. So I go with the Island Walk Lord. This is going to present 5 points of damage this turn, bringing the opponent down to 14. Next turn, if I play the Reejerey, it would bump it up to 10 more. It's not a 2-turn clock, so still pretty slow. I'm leaving Negate up. The opponent drew Bring to Light, which is a fantastic draw for them. They're going to play a Stomping Grounds tapped and use their 5 mana to cast Bring to Light. Now, sometimes it can be correct to let the Bring to Light resolve. It says at the end you may cast the card that you get without paying its mana cost. However, if the opponent chooses to get a Supreme Verdict, then I won't be able to use a Negate on it because it's uncounterable. So in this case, I'm just going to choose to counter the Bring to Light. So it paid off, leaving the Negate up, but as you can see, the Obstinate Baloth has been doing good work, getting my life total lower, and the opponent sitting with Scapeshift in hand is going to hit his 7th land next turn. So let's see. In retrospect, if I had played the Master of Waves instead of the Master of the Pearl Trident, the opponent would have resolved Bring to Light and almost certainly had gotten some kind of board wipe. So my board would have been wiped. If it was Anger of the Gods, I would still be sticking around with Master of Waves. Obstinate Baloth would have lived, though. I would still have Negate in hand for the Scapeshift. But as it stands, I have a nice clock, and with the opponent only having 2 cards in hand, I couldn't necessarily put him on having Scapeshift in hand. So I thought a lot, I guess, here. I don't know what's going on exactly. My train of thought sort of got derailed. So I swing for 8. Yeah, this is the turn after I played that Master. The opponent tried to resolve Bring to Light. It got countered. It went back to me. I'm swinging with these guys. And I think I'm just going to follow up with AEther Vial. Now, what is the thought process here? I had a lot of good choices here. I think potentially I was trying not to overextend into a Supreme Verdict. This is now lethal next turn, and I can also play out the Reejerey next turn for extra overkill if the opponent lets me get to the next turn. Unfortunately, we see he has the perfect 2-card combination here. He's going to get to play out his 7th land. He's going to resolve Scapeshift. He would have resolved that around Cursecatcher anyway. He's going to get his 6 mountains and Valakut. They come into the battlefield tapped, and it's 18 to my head. A little bit unfortunate. Came right down to the wire. Let me know if I made any missteps. I did my best with those counterspells. Can be a little tricky sometimes making the right call with those. So this hand here, a little clunky with only Cavern of Souls, but again with AEther Vial, 1 land, opening hands are pretty easy to keep, and I did in fact keep this. The opponent's opening 7 had 2 lands, Wall of Omens on turn 2, Search for Tomorrow suspended on turn 1, Glittering Wish looks really, really good. It's got an Anger of the Gods, just excellent. Looking at the rest of my hand, I've got 3 2-drop creatures, so if I draw 1 more land, I'll be sitting pretty, and especially I'm going to want to see a blue source to get this counter magic online. From my sideboard, I have access to 3 Dispels and 3 Negates against sort of dedicated combo decks like Scapeshift. Well, Glittering Wish Scapeshift is particularly combo-oriented. So there is my Cavern of Souls naming Merfolk playing out that AEther Vial. The opponent draws another Search for Tomorrow. They're going to crack this Windswept Heath. Getting a basic forest and suspending Search for Tomorrow. So I'm looking for a land on my turn, and I hit one. Unfortunately, not a blue source. Still going to have to dig for that. Gonna go ahead then and cast Silvergill, hoping to hit that blue source. I'll reveal Lord of Atlantis and draw Reejerey. It's nice. I'm getting gas. I'm going to be able to start deploying creatures with Aether Vial very soon, potentially just getting right out of Anger of the Gods range. Being on the play can be a huge advantage when you're racing spells like Anger of the Gods. So here's, oh man, so the opponent didn't draw into a land, and looks like they just had to go with a tapped Valakut. That really stinks because they wanted to play out a Sakura Tribe Elder or Wall of Omens to shore up their board, but as it stands, I drew another Dispel. As it stands there, they're stuck on this one forest. Now hang on a second. I don't know why they didn't suspend this second Search for Tomorrow. That's got to be a mistake on the opponent's part. Very strange. So I play out my Island Walk Lord here, swing for 2, and just pass back to the opponent. Now, having only access to one more Island Walk Lord through the Aether Vial, that would leave me susceptible to Anger of the Gods. And even though I didn't know that the opponent had it in hand, I'm still going to play around it just because that's a very reasonable spell for this kind of a deck to be playing, even out of the sideboard against aggressive decks. Opponent's going to go with Wall of Omens here, draws into another land, so they're doing much better with their lands now. Let's see. Looks like a tapped Stomping Grounds, and now they're going to suspend the Search for Tomorrow. I wonder if they realized this little mistake that they made on the previous turn. So now I'm going to have a chance to get my creatures out of Anger of the Gods range. I'm going to put this Aether Vial straight up to 3 since my only creature is a 3-drop right now. I've got a lot of pressure on the board right now. Swinging with 3, 3, and 4 for 10. The opponent's going to try to block with this Wall of Omens, and I'm going to bring in the Reejerey so that the Wall of Omens will actually have to chump and just die to my Lord. The opponent's going to take 5 and 4 from the other 2 creatures, going from 16 down to 7. So a ton of pressure from the Merfolk deck this game, and doesn't look like the opponent has any outs here. They don't have blue mana for Supreme Verdict. They have Anger of the Gods, but I just, as I mentioned, got out of the range. So these Sakura Tribe Elders are not doing anything right now. Spending 2 mana for a Glittering Wish, I don't know what they'd be able to get, but probably nothing powerful enough to catch up from this position with his 2 remaining lands. So let's just see what the opponent up. So yeah, he conceded, and that was Bring to Light Scapeshift. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a very interesting deck. I think I still have a lot to learn about the particular cards that they tend to play, but you can make some safe assumptions most of the time. You know that they almost certainly have access to cards like Anger of the Gods and Supreme Verdict. So you want to be careful about not overextending, but you also have to be really careful not to sit back. You really want to push damage and not give the opponent too much of a chance to get out to that 7 and 8 land point when they can start resolving lethal Scapeshifts. So yeah, thanks again for tuning in. Please leave any comments you might have. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks very much.